How can you spot a true Bison fan? They have an exclusive Bison debit card from Gate City Bank in their wallet. Plus, they know that for every card order, Gate City Bank donates $10 to NDSU. Show your spirit with your own Bison card today at gatecity.bank/Bison or instantly at any location. Gate City Bank, for a better way of life. Member FDIC. Everybody, welcome to the latest edition of the Kolpack and Izzo podcast, brought to you by Gate City Bank with the Forum's Jeff Kolpack. I'm Dom Izzo from WDAY Sports. The old rivals are set to play once again for the 116th time. The University of North Dakota and North Dakota State will play on a football field Saturday afternoon at the Alerus Center in Grand Forks for just the second time in the Division I era. The game is being played in Grand Forks. The Bison have not lost in the Division I era. The last time UND won against North Dakota State, nearly 20 years to the day, October of 2003. My colleague always likes to tell me that streaks end. Is this the year that the streak ends in this rivalry?
I didn't think so until I saw the gray helmets about 20 seconds ago. You showed me on Twitter.
UND's going to wear some old school
How do you beat that look?
Well, I'm trying to figure out. I think that was what they wore in the 70s and early 80s, and then they transitioned out of that.
I probably need somebody like Mike Deutsch on here to give a little history lesson. But I remember the UND days of old, the Sioux days, and that's what I remember is the gray or silver helmet or something like that. And I think the matte green is not my favorite.
Not mine either. I don't like the black either, frankly.
But this is sharp.
That's
it looks
all right.
good.
It'll be cool. The Bison are going to be wearing an old school look as well, wearing the yellow helmet with the white jersey, and the yellow pants are coming back out on the road, Kolpack. They did that last year at Arizona, and then in 21 they wore them in Grand Forks as well.
And didn't they wear them at South Dakota?
They did in 2018.
What's their record with this look?
Oh, gosh.
This is stuff you know. This is right up your alley.
Off the top of my head, I think it's 2-1 as last I checked, I think, in the recent times, since they went away when they started wearing the green pants on the road.
Should have won at Arizona.
They should be undefeated in those. So we'll get to this matchup here in a second. Bison had a big win on Saturday over Missouri State. UND had a big win over Western Illinois. So each team comes in off a victory. From where we were last week, how much of the alarm bells were quieted down, how the Bison performed on Saturday?
I think more it was not so much the alarm bell thing as to stop any sort of trend, and I thought they did that. Again, I didn't think it was going to be any kind of I called it a jumping off point. And so, yeah, that's a jumping off point, but it's not a rival type of thing. I don't think so. I mean, a nice performance on Saturday would probably signal, okay, take this team seriously when you're talking about playoffs and deep runs and maybe Frisco. But until you beat teams like UND and at least give South Dakota State a run, you got to beat UNI down there. You got to go 9-2 with a good game at South Dakota State, and then okay, now you can take them as a serious national title contender threat. But until that happens, I don't think you can.
I was intrigued to see what they did offensively last week. I thought they were going to pound it against a Missouri State team that was not great in the defensive line. Instead, they flipped the script on that, Kolpack. Instead, they winged it all over the place, and Cam had a great day. Mathis had a record-setting day for himself in terms of a couple touchdowns on 160 yards. That was not how I thought they were going to attack a Missouri State team, and it worked, but I was expecting to see them pound the rock, and that was not what they did on Saturday.
Maybe those days are over because teams are just so crowding the line of scrimmage and saying, okay, we can't let NDSU run the ball. I thought you had a good point on Hot Mike this week that so fans want them to throw the ball more. They're throwing the ball more. Okay, but what about the run? I mean, what do you want?
Right.
What is it that you want?
That's the thing. I screamed, we got to get the ball downfield. We, meaning NDSU's got to get the ball downfield. But then there's the contingent that says, well, wait a minute, you're not running the ball enough. I don't know. You had the great term for it, the unidentified football offense this week, which that is, and you asked Matt Entz about it on Monday at his press conference, which started the week of the South Dakota game, of looking over at the sideline to get the play in, which honestly, that's customary right now in 2023 college football. It's everybody.
A lot of teams have done that. Yes. Yeah, that's nothing new, but it's new to NDSU.
No doubt about that.
And what I think it does, and they didn't really want to reveal too many details, but what I think it does is it puts the audible in the hands of the coaches and saying, okay, here's a look, and obviously Tyler must be up in the box and go, 2, 2, 2, and they signal 2, and boom, it's literally that quick on the field. Easton Stick was, I thought, really good at doing audibles. The older he got in his career, but I don't know. Maybe Cam Miller could do audibles, but maybe this is just a little further way of putting the coaching, putting it in the hands of the staff.
The head football coach said Monday that he was the one who recommended this, and I imagine if the head football coach is recommending it, it means we got to do this. And that was something that went back to spring ball when we talked to Entz, fall camp. We have to be more diversified in what we're going to do offensively. We have all these weapons, he said. We got to use them, and they are doing that here so far this fall.
Well, and when you get killed by South Dakota State in a national title game, then okay, you got to go back to the drawing board, and they went back to the drawing board. And this is they've done two things. One is they've dispersed the ball to more receivers. Yep. Two is they went to this sort of an offensive look where they look to the sideline and can change a play in an instant on a call that's presumably from up top.
So you're saying the days of, I don't know, a guy getting 1,200 yards, a running back, is that donezo?
Sure seems like it.
Wow. Right now, the leading rusher is Cole Payton, who's the backup quarterback, at 283 rushing yards on the season. And he's, by the way, Payton has scored in every game so far this year. He has 6 touchdowns in 5 games.
So you're saying, they're not running the ball and everything.
I know.
What are they? What are they in the country in rushing offense?
I don't know off the top of my head. What do you got?
4.
Yeah.
Is that horrible?
That's pretty good. Pretty good.
What are they in passing offense?
What are they in passing?
58th.
That's not bad.
But Cam's leading the country in completion percentage.
79% completion percentage. It's outrageous right now. So, yeah.
The defense is horrible. You know what they are in scoring defense? 8th. That's not bad.
Good. They've turned the ball over once so far in 5 games. I get it. I know. But to me, and this is a point we'll get to when we get a little deeper into the UND, attacking UND, that defensive line I thought would get home a little bit more against Missouri State. That did not happen in the game on Saturday. There was a late sack that backup defensive tackle Logan Larson got in the game, but other than that, Kolpack, they did not get to Mo State's backup quarterback, which I thought they would in that game.
If I were to be critical of one aspect of the team, that would be it.
Mm-hmm.
It's nobody's just flat out beating somebody off the line, and really you're not getting that. Again, we said it many times that one dude that is just like Greg Menard, where they're always worried about this guy, coming off the edge or whatever. And so you look at. I want to finish this rushing offense. Montana State's leading, but they've had such a soft schedule. Davidson running team, total running team,
and terrible schedule.
Yeah, South Dakota State.
They're all
pretty
right.
good.
They're not bad.
Best offensive line in the country.
Yep, that's pretty good.
NDSU's 4th.
Interesting.
And actually, the Jacks are they're 13 yards ahead of NDSU. So
not by much.
Yeah,
not by much there. Let's chat about the University of North Dakota. Bubba Schweigert's team comes in a mark of 3-2. They have beaten the teams that they should have beaten, Jeff, and they lost to the teams I thought they would have in Boise State and South Dakota State. You've looked at UND so far. What do you make of Bubba's team here in 2023?
Well, I think what they are is what they are when you look at their statistics, and it's pretty average across the board in the FCS. Their scoring offense are 16th. That's probably their best. They're scoring the ball. So, rushing offense 51st, passing 36th, scoring defense 42nd, rushing defense 49, passing defense 68th, total defense. That's right in the middle of 123 FCS teams. In most major statistical categories. So I guess they're good.
Yeah.
Not great, not bad. Somewhere in the middle.
And I think that's kind of what I've seen. I've watched 2 full games of theirs. I watched the Boise game and I watched the South Dakota State game. And granted, those are games that they lost. I still believe they had chances to win that game in Boise. They did not play well there, and that's not a good Boise team, and they ended up losing 42-18. South Dakota State manhandled them off the ball. Those first couple drives, the Jackrabbits ran it right down their throats, and that's something that anybody can duplicate. I don't think the Bison can because they don't have that offensive line that the Jackrabbits have. But if I'm Matt Entz, Tyler Roll, I'm watching that game tape, and I'm wondering how much is different defensively from UND than we've seen over the last couple of years. I don't know if there is anything.
Well, they still have the 3-4,
right.
and you're starting to wonder how long they're going to hold on to the 3-4. Not a whole lot of teams run that. Am I correct on that?
I don't think so. It's far and few between that I know of across FCS.
They should have beat Boise. Boise's 3-3,
right.
beatable team this year.
They're no world beaters. No.
And that was a winnable game. Yep. Made some critical mistakes. Yep. And I guess that's what it's going to come down to on Saturday, probably. When you have two teams that are pretty close to each other, it's going to be a turnover here or there.
So Tommy Schuster is going to be playing now. This is his fourth game against the Bison. Yet to win, as obviously we know. He hasn't thrown a pick since the South Dakota game last November. He's had a streak of over 200+. But here's the thing for people that haven't watched a ton of UND football. Danny Freund, their offensive coordinator, he gets the ball out quick. It's maybe like 1, 2, boom. So if I'm a defensive lineman, how frustrating can that potentially be knowing we're already struggling to get to the guy? Now he's going to get rid of the ball before we even have a chance.
So if you're a defensive back, you play tight.
Right. Or the linebacker is playing closer to the line of scrimmage as well. And that's a really interesting key to me to watch on Saturday of how that particularly is going to unfold in the game.
They don't take many chances, obviously, with Tommy Schuster, and he's not a big on the run game.
He's not a mobile guy. No. Anytime, the game up there 2 years ago when they got Schuster out of the pocket, he threw that terrible pick to Dawson Weber. That's where the UND's got to be worrisome about that. If they're gonna flush him out, that could be a real troublesome spot there for UND. Also, knowing full well their top playmaker is not 100%. I fully expect Bo Belquist to play in this game.
What happened?
It was a shoulder injury. That he got dinged up late in the first half against Western Illinois. Bubba said he could have come back. It was a coach's decision that he didn't play the second half of the football game. But under no circumstances do I believe he's not playing in this game. And he's hurt the Bison. In the 3 games that they've played, he scored 2 touchdowns against NDSU, including one of them was a trick play on a halfback option pass to him in 2021.
Is this a situation where who was the Bison? Darius Shepard against Northern Iowa when Chris Kleiman had the option of what half do you want him?
Shoot him up for
they
one
shoot
half.
him up for one half.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know how serious
or do
it
you
is.
do that at this stage of the season?
Yeah.
But it's a huge game for.
It really is a big game for both, but it's a monster game for UND.
Because one more loss.
Right, and they go to Northern Iowa next week, and they still have a trip to Vermilion. I know the Bison still have the Jacks and Northern Iowa, but UND's got 2 losses opposed to the Bison 1. And that we talk about wiggle room, it gets even less if you're UND and you don't win this game on Saturday.
Yeah, for the Bison, you're talking about inside track to not playing on Thanksgiving.
Right. You've got a window to potentially do that. Yes. For UND, that means you've got to take care of business and do something you've never done before. Win in Vermilion in the Division I era. They haven't done that yet.
Is there bigger issues in play here as far as when you look at UND and the fact it hasn't won against NDSU in 20 years, and obviously they didn't play for 12, right? So it's a pretty big gap.
Yep.
Is there a little more gusto there? Is there a little more juice? Because I'm not feeling the juice down here in Fargo. How about up there?
Hard to say. Talking with a few people, I think there's a little bit, but it's never going to be what it was in the heyday when you covered things, considering they went, 12 years without playing.
Hockey with Wisconsin is going to draw more people.
That's the rub, Kolpack, and that's a great point because 2 years ago, when this game happened, the hockey season hadn't started yet. There's a monster hockey game that night, too. And I know the UND football fans don't want to hear me say this, but automatically there's going to be attention to that. I know it's going to be a sellout crowd. It's going to be a great atmosphere. But automatically the attention on UND football gets cut in half because the hockey season has started. There's no debating that. And like you mentioned, it's not like they're playing RIT. They're playing Wisconsin Saturday night at the Ralph. That's a huge deal. That's a huge deal.
Yeah, that's why the game got second billing as far as starting time.
Right. And that to me, I'm intrigued by. I really am, especially if they lose what the interest is in UND football going forward.
And isn't there a network decision that this game's got to be done sooner than later?
There is. Yeah. That's not our decision, but we'll roll with it whenever we have to on that. I am intrigued. The game 2 years ago, Otis Weah was in the backfield. You knew he could be a home run hitter for them. I don't know out of Belquist what other home run hitters they have on this roster. Zbar's had a really nice year.
7.2 yards a carry.
But I guess I'll put an asterisk next to that, Kolpack, is look at the teams against Drake, against Northern Arizona. I know he's won a couple nice games. Against Western, that's not the caliber of the high teams in South in the FCS.
How do you do on the South Dakota State game?
Well, nobody did really well against South Dakota State. That's the overarching theme of when everybody plays the Jackrabbits this year. That's my point. Like of a Z-Barth, of an Isaiah. I thought Isaiah Smith was going to be the guy.
Yeah, I do. I thought he was going to be the guy.
I thought he would take over, and because I saw that Smith looked like he was the home run hitter against NDSU, frankly, when they played up there a couple years ago, and that never really materialized either. So that, to me, you kind of like, all right, well, who's going to be the guy? Against Boise, by the way, they ran for a total of, 41 yards. Z-Barth had 35 against Boise.
He had 22 against South Dakota State on 5 carries.
That's the thing. And they got behind. They were down 14 rip earlier in that game. I don't know if Luke Skokin
68
is the guy,
total yards rushing.
I don't think Skokin is the home run hitter. So
they're going to need more than that on Saturday.
Right. That's the thing where, the Bison defense will certainly scheme up on that. That's what I'm intrigued about to see how that plays out. Because Belquist, can do it. Who else is the guy? Even Adam Zavalny, a couple years ago, Park River kid, he was able to get loose and make some plays. I don't know. Is it Red Wilson? He hasn't had a chance. Elijah Klein, the big kid from Mandan, he may have made some circus catches. Maybe he's able to get. He's there.
How about Wesley Elidor? South Dakota transfer. He was tabbed to be an instant.
He's had a couple of touchdowns, but we'll see against the Bison secondary that's had some holes against it. That's going to have to be Schuster's deal. Klein is what Mathis is to NDSU. He's got that kind of size. I don't know if he's got the kind of ball skills that Zach Mathis does, but Elijah's a big guy. Can get up there and catch the football. That will be interesting to see how they utilize him. My last point on this, Danny Freund's going to have some sort of trickeration up his sleeve for Saturday. That's the way it'll be.
Everybody knows. The Bison players are talking about it.
Right. Well, I mean, look at how that game played out a couple years ago. That Bubba twice went for it on 4th down. That big one, he went for it on 4th and 1.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Right? That was how well the UND defense was playing. I'm still 2 years later, I'm still shaking my head about that kind of play call they went for. It
seems so out of character with Bubba, too. Yeah. Generally a conservative guy by nature, and it just didn't seem him.
No. I want to chat about the Bison side of things here before we wrap things up, because Entz brought up something interesting. You wrote about it on Monday, that they were not prepared for the noise level up there 2 years ago. And I went back and watched the first couple series. Bison had 2 false starts. They were all out of sorts on the early. And again, I remind everybody that it's maybe a casual fan. Cam Miller was not the starting quarterback in that football game. That was Quincy Patterson was the guy. But Kolpack, they were all out of sorts. And Entz admitted they were not prepared for how loud it was going to be in there.
They weren't sure what to do, whether to use the clap or the silent cadence, or I don't know. There's other, or maybe you throw your arm down a little bit.
Something.
Yeah, something. And they just didn't seem like they were, and he admitted they weren't prepared.
Yeah.
Which.
That is odd for North Dakota State football. I don't think I've ever heard that before. Frankly, in the time I've covered them up close for the better part now of 12, 13 years, I don't remember ever hearing say we weren't prepared for what was to come.
Well, now, I mean, they spent a lot.
The case now.
No, they spent a lot of time on it because they still have South Dakota State. They still have Northern Iowa, two arenas. Although South Dakota State could be cold. It's in November. If it's a cold November, I don't see 19,000.
I had this posted to me earlier this week. How many times has Cam Miller played in a loud environment as the starting quarterback? I would say the one game in Brookings, and that was his third career start against South Dakota State. It wasn't loud in Arizona. We were there. There was 10,000 Bison fans there. Certainly nowhere else in the Missouri Valley has it been loud. That's the thing.
Hasn't played at Montana.
Right. This is going to be the loudest environment as the starter.
But just being part of loud environments in Fargo has got to help you a little bit.
Yeah.
I know they practice with the noise with the defense all week when they have home games.
Right.
Just being a part of that, I think it's got to help. It's got to help you a little bit.
I would say we talked about this heading into the season, that he was the linchpin of how good this team was going to be. He's been awesome. Miller's been spectacular through the first 5 games of this year.
84 or 107, and I like his good decision making. He's going downfield more.
Yep.
I don't know what the yards per completion are. It's got to be up from last year. And you look back at that. What was the game? Was it Incarnate Word where he just
1 of 12 that game.
Just cannot do.
Nobody got
It's
open.
amazing to look back and think about that.
And you saw that drive right before halftime last week where they're at their own 11-yard line, like, all right, and then the first couple plays did nothing. And he went and hit Mathis on a bomb
Had
down
the confidence to do
sideline
that.
to go and do that, convert there. They converted another one, and before you knew it, 2 plays later, they were in the end zone for a touchdown.
That was game over.
The game was over after that. That, to me, is the difference of Cam Miller of 2022 and Cam Miller of 2023. The ability and the confidence to say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go to my guy. I'm going to trust him. He's going to go make a play. That's the biggest difference.
And I think that starts with the staff. And the staff told him, and maybe Entz told the staff, that no, we cannot play like this. Yep. We mean in our team. I can't let I don't want my offense to be afraid to run plays.
Yep. And it has not looked like that so far.
Remember when he took over, he was not afraid to roll the dice here and there. National title game with the fake field goal.
We haven't seen that yet this season.
No, we've seen no fakes.
What do you make of that? Is that coming?
Well, didn't he we want to put it on tape?
Yes, everything. We always want to put it on tape. They haven't even done
the
2-point conversion.
Yeah, they've just strictly lined up.
That has not been in the repertoire so far in 2023.
It's coming. It's coming.
Yeah. What did I say? You can't play a big game like it's a big game, right? You can't do that. But that to me has been the one of the biggest differences we've seen of this Bison football team is Cam Miller, his confidence and his ability to go down the field has produced way different results for NDSU in 2023.
And I think Zach Mathis has put together a really, really outstanding year.
Well, maybe he's the go-to guy. I've been screaming this for 2 years. Maybe it's Mathis that's the deep threat on this team. He's not the burner, though. That's the thing I'm wondering.
I still think Eli Green's a burner.
And Eli's been absent the last 2 games. We haven't seen really anything out of him over the last 2 weeks. I thought Joe Stuffle had a really nice game last week, though, too, going over the middle. I was visiting with him yesterday when we were up at the Fargo Dome, and he took a couple of shots. He knew full well he was going to get it, but his ability to hang on the football, and he shakes tackles. It's not the first guy that brings him down, Jeff. I think that's a big deal, too.
I think he's almost Ben Ellefson-like.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's that effective. I do.
He's been really, really good in that. So I know we're not going to pick the game until Saturday. If there's a time for UND to do this, this is their best time, right? To get, I don't want to say it's an injured or a down NDSU team, but this is a team that if they have a chance to win, this is as good as it's going to get.
I think the fans smell it. I think the people sense it. And I'm getting sick of talking about this game. Let's get it going. What is it, Thursday?
It's Thursday morning here. We still got a little bit more to go. I was told that the Alerus Center staff is told that if UND wins, to expect the fans to storm the field. What do you make of that?
Can you carry the goalposts out of there?
Do the garage doors open?
Can you carry the goalposts down to, what's the bar up there now? Whitey's? Is that still a place? I never go to Grand Forks anymore.
It's going to be a heck of an atmosphere. I love, and I was visiting with a couple of players yesterday. They don't play in any atmospheres like this. There's no you were there Saturday. It was a family and friends in Springfield. Terre Haute, no.
Nothing.
Youngstown, no. Macomb, no. Vermilion, no. Cedar Falls, maybe a little bit, but you brought this up to me on Hot Mic on Monday. When has it ever really been an issue for the Bison in Cedar Falls? It hasn't.
No.
It hasn't.
No. The one year they lost 23-3 when Carson had that field-time game. It was pretty good.
Pretty good that day.
It was good that day, yep.
But it wasn't to the point of where it was in Grand Forks a couple years ago. That's just it. That's why I think even for the Bison players, this is going to be a neat deal because they don't experience this often or ever.
Well, how many times have you heard opposing teams come into the Fargo Dome and go, it just jacks them up and they just play better and they play at a higher level. Conversely, if you're NDSU, wouldn't you want to have that sort of mentality?
Absolutely.
To go up there and go, okay, us against the world, bring it on?
Yep. I think there's something to that. Entz pointed that out last week after the game, saying it was good for us to get out of Fargo. It was good to get on the road and it was traveling on the team charter. It was a business trip. That was exactly how they treated that last week. This is a big weekend. I call this Separation Saturday. When you look at the schedule of the games that are coming on, we're going to pick a handful of them. Northern Iowa plays South Dakota State, and I know the Jacks are heavily favored to win that game. I'll just point this stat out. 3 of the last 4 times during the regular season, UNI has won in Brookings. There's something about the Panthers going there that they play well at South Dakota State.
Not happening this year.
Okay.
No.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but I'm just throwing that stat out there.
I just don't think anybody's going to beat South Dakota State.
Probably not.
I don't see it.
We're picking this game Saturday, but suddenly Youngstown at USD is suddenly a really interesting game because what Youngstown did last week to Southern.
Yeah, Youngstown 3-2, USD 4-1.
Yeah, and Youngstown held SIU to 100 yards of offense. So how does that happen?
Yeah, well,
how does that happen with Southern Illinois? I don't get it.
Maybe they're not for real.
SIU, I guess they're gonna. I mean, they got a layup this week with Murray State, but
well, they went 5-6 last year and beat a Big Ten team.
Right, that's true. We'll see. The big game, national TV, Kolpack. You're gonna have to stay up for this one. 9:30 Saturday night, Montana at Idaho on ESPN2. Now the Grizz won on the road, a game we all picked UC Davis to win, and the Grizz did that. Now can they do it at the Kibbie Dome against Idaho? That's going to be a heck of a football game on national TV, ESPN2 Saturday night.
Well, all the strife we've sort of heard about what's going on in Montana, maybe not.
Maybe it's emboldened them.
Yeah, it's a good word.
You know?
Maybe the players are, hey, we still have a season here. Whatever's going on.
Yep. How about you pick this one? Montana or Weber State hosting Davis. I think this is the loser is out. Each team is 3-3 right now.
Yeah, Weber's just not been impressive.
They got blown out at home twice.
Yeah.
Northern Arizona and Montana State have beaten them.
Lost Jay Hill a couple years ago, and sometimes Weber, they hit it right with some Mormon kids who come back and mature. And some years you don't hit it right.
Yeah, that's true. I think Davis wins that game. I think Weber's out of the playoff mix after.
I wouldn't pick them.
The loser of this has 4 losses, and we're in the middle of October.
I mean, they've not only been beat, they've been killed.
Yeah, they've been
at home by Montana State, and who else killed them?
Northern Arizona got them. Northern Arizona went to Ogden and won last weekend, so that was eye-opening. I'll just point this out before we wrap up. Central Arkansas, Kolpack, rallied on Saturday. They were down big, beat SEMO. UCA's now 4-2. Granted, they have a non-Division I win in there. They're not losing again. I said it after the game. They're going to be 9-2. You watch. They're going to win that league and maybe get a seed into the NCAA tournament. I believe that's going to happen.
So one loss would be NDSU, and the other one would be
Oklahoma State.
Yep, which it was a good game.
I mean, if you're 9-2 and that's your 2 losses, quality losses, Kolpack, they could be a 7 or a 6.
Sure.
And by the way, I had this, I think Sam Herder's writing about this, that the non-counter is a misnomer. All the wins count. It's just how much the committee values more Division I wins than Division II wins.
So it's good to get that clarified.
It is. It doesn't actually mean your record goes, like for South Dakota State, like if they are unbeaten, it's not they'll be 11 or 10-0. They'll be 11-0, but they do have a win against a team that's not a Division I team. So I appreciate Sam writing that, and you can check that out, and we'll chat about probably more about that as we get closer to bracketology, which is coming up in a couple weeks. We get ready for that. Don't forget, of course, Bison Game Day. We'll get you started on Saturday morning. Jeff, myself, Kyle Emanuel, Logan Campbell, our crew up in Grand Forks at 10 a.m. for an hour-long pregame show. We got a lot of good stuff to get you ready for the game. And then, of course, we hit the air at 12:50 in anticipation of UND and North Dakota State kickoff shortly after 1 from the Alerus Center. Jeff, Mike, Big E, cast of thousands up there to recap everything as well. The game, you can see it live. We're back on WDAY, so you can call if you need to, but we're on Channel 6 coming up on Saturday.
Did anybody call you on your cell phone?
Nobody called on the cell. No. I appreciate they gave out like 7 of the digits, but no. Nobody called. For Jeff Kolpack, I'm Dom Izzo. Latest edition of the Kolpack and Izzo podcast, brought to you by Gate City Bank.